Every story has a beginning and an end. What lies between those 2 points is the journey. This is a quote by writer R.C. Richter. What lies between are beginnings and endings. What lies between might be a far cry from the beginning of a dream or the conceived start of a planned out life. Nor will our lives ever look like our imagined final end. The in-between can look more like a tangled web of nonsense at any given complicated bit, but it is still our story. Good writers say you should always start a story conceptualizing the end. They say you should know your character, the one that will be known to the reader at the end of the book. They say the writer should backtrack and imagine a beginning based on that end, and then make an arc of all the changes that the character had to go through to get to the end. The writing of our life story, it isn't like that, is it? We cannot imagine our beginnings, no matter how many stories our mother or father told us. And as much as we might have wanted to see ourselves as the writer of our own stories at some specific, self-chosen, auspicious and relevant beginning, we now look at where we are, quite certain we now have little conception of what that end will look like. For life has shown us, in the end, we have little to no control of the storyline. We may have some choice in small edits in a chapter or 2. We might make a general plot change based on some new intention, but we're not really the story's writer. We could only call ourselves the writer if we had the ability to place ourselves at some self-chosen beginning, and if we had full knowledge and control of the end. And then there's all the unexpected plot lines in between. No, we're not the writer. The beginning of every story establishes the setting and characters, making sure to grab readers' attention and making them want to go on a journey. The middle of the story is where characters face obstacles and conflicts. It's where the plot thickens and the stakes are raised. The ending reveals the resolution and the climax. Everyone here is somewhere in that messy and unpredictable middle. And I ask you, how are you experiencing the journey of your character in the story of your life? I'm certain there are many chapters you would like to write out. And maybe if you had control, you would write the perfect ending. Looking at your life at a rough patch, you might ask, how did I get here? And where am I going? Having guessed the trajectory to the end. We might feel the conflict too keenly or the trajectory, the one we're seeing, based on where we are now, unacceptable. You may know Tim Burton, writer and artist, and he reminds us, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end, but not necessarily in that order. And I put to you, this is especially true in a walk of faith. An end might be the very best beginning. Isn't it often to our later surprise, those confusing and difficult times become the transformational moments of our lives? We learn God is with us at every turn. From Psalm 139. You have searched me, Lord, and you know me. You know when I sit and when I rise. As I declared in an earlier reflection, beginnings often reveal intended endings, and so it is for us, as is shared in the book of John. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, God's only beloved. This is the one who was with God from the very beginning. This beloved one, gifted to the world from the beginning, makes you his beloved, makes the whole world his beloved. We learn something very important about our character in the story of our lives. We are not alone, nor are we insignificant. We learn our beginnings are found in the heart of God. We learn something of the primary character in the story, which is not us, but God. God loved us. And this reality makes all the difference to every plot, twist, and turn of our lives. And it's good to remember this when it's hard to discern where we are and where we are going. We can remember that when so many of our chapters have unexpected and painful endings in them. Today, ponder this. For every ending, there is always a new beginning, taking us closer to the ultimate end, the fullest realization of love and joy, connection with God, and everyone God taught us and will teach us to love forever. Martin Luther's theology centered on dying of the self, that in Christ we are daily born anew. We are made new creatures, as is described in 2 Corinthians. Richard Rohr, Franciscan priest, writes, "Faith offers us a foundational belief that life is a succession of dyings and risings. At the center of the Eucharist, we proclaim, Christ has died, Christ is risen, and Christ will come again." That is the saving pattern. It's not a mystery of faith. It is the mystery of faith.